Got breaking news in the NBA. The Atlanta Hawks firing head coach Lloyd Pierce in his third season with the team. Had a really bad February. They went 4-11. This is a Hawks team that with some young pieces highlighted by Trae Young. It's expected to be a lot better this season, but they sit 14-20 overall. Their number one draft pick, Onyeka Okongwu, hasn't done really anything. He's only played 14 games, averaging 3 points, a couple rebounds a game. And the Hawks, a week after the Timberwolves fire Ryan Saunders, become the next team to pull the trigger before the All-Star break. Now, under Pierce in 2+ seasons, boy, their best conference finish was 12th, and that's about the spot they sit right now. They did not make the playoffs under Lloyd Pierce, and they do not look like a playoff team at this moment. Let's get the latest with our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. Bill, I know you're not surprised to hear that this was coming because the star, Trae Young, didn't really see eye to eye with his head coach. What's the backstory there?
Yeah, Chris, I mean, the reality is that if you don't get along with the superstar, the would-be superstar, the most important player on your team, and it was an open secret around the NBA that Trae Young just wasn't connecting with Lloyd Pierce. In fact, not even an open secret, just an open statement sometimes, and some of the things Trae Young would say criticizing the coaching and the game planning over the last 3 or 4 weeks, even before this, what you said, 4-11 stretch in February, we knew Lloyd Pierce probably wasn't going to last very long. You mix in the really lackadaisical defense this team has played, the high expectations, the fact that Travis Schlenk, the GM, went out and made some moves in the offseason to make the Atlanta Hawks what he thought was a playoff team, and it felt inevitable that eventually the Hawks were going to do what they've done today, and that was move on from their head coach. Okay,
Lloyd Pierce is not the guy. What should they be looking for in the next guy to lead this young nucleus, in Trae Young in particular? I mean, is he going to be able to go out and handpick his coach?
I really hope not. I would imagine not. I mean, you talk to people around that Hawks organization, and Travis Schlenk, the GM, even though he's missed on some draft picks this year, still has a lot of respect. He was the number 2 under Bob Myers in Golden State with that Warriors organization, where players, at least at the beginning of building that dynasty, did not rule that organization, did not make those decisions. The expectation is that Schlenk will make the pick. They'll certainly do it in consultation with Trae Young. I think, Chris, what they're going to have to do is look, and you mentioned the Timberwolves, the last team to fire their coach, and I think the Knicks are good examples. That Timberwolves team over the last few years had a dynamic offense at times with Karl-Anthony Towns. This Hawks team is 9th best in offensive rating, and that Minnesota team didn't play defense. Even when Tom Thibodeau was there, it just didn't work. This Hawks team has regressed defensively this year. They're going to need to find a coach. They've got a good offense in place who can get this unit. Some draft picks were brought in to help with the defense. Clint Capella was brought in to help with the defense, who can make them mediocre, above average on defense. You do that, and there's a real expectation they can be a playoff team. So a coach who can get these guys to work hard, who can connect with that superstar, who can get them to play defense, I think that's what Travis Schlenk, the GM, will be looking for.
Do you see John Collins, their second leading scorer, being a part of this team long term? There have been rumors that he might be on the trade block.
Yeah, that is, I don't know. And talking to folks around the NBA, a lot of the folks around the NBA, including some people in Atlanta, aren't sure. They don't know that the Atlanta Hawks view John Collins as a max guy. John Collins certainly views himself as a max player, and he certainly has put up the numbers to do that. And you talk about some of the tension in that locker room. There have been moments when John Collins and Trae Young haven't gotten along on the floor, have been somewhat vocal about it in post-game press conferences with the media. And so the next head coach, among the many tasks in front of him, is going to have to create a copacetic locker room, especially if Collins is part of the future. I know, Chris, that a lot of Atlanta Hawks fans, that a lot of people in that organization hope Collins is going to be there, but it's one of the many huge question marks for this organization right now.
You mentioned the Knicks, a team on the rise. You mentioned the Chicago Bulls. You haven't mentioned them, but I know the Chicago Bulls are kind of in the same line of the New York Knicks, in that teams like the Hawks, who have been struggling for years, do you think seeing those teams make a jump this season has something to do with this?
I do. I think it's a really good point. And those are very different coaches. Billy Donovan has proven himself to be a guy, especially last year, who can connect with and help to grow the talent of young players. And Tom Thibodeau, it turned out, is a guy, with all respect to Julius Randle, who thrives less with stars. I mean, stars work, but guys who buy into what he is selling in two very different examples. You're right, those organizations have made really big jumps. And I think that's one of the catalysts behind the reality that in Atlanta, and this is right or wrong, I drank the Kool-Aid, they believed absolutely, not just that they were a playoff team, they thought they might be good enough to fight their way into that 6 slot where you don't have to worry about the play-in game. You're the 8 and you play the 12. You're the 9, you play the 7, you play one of those teams. So, yes, I think that's some of it. I think a lot of it just comes down to the GM and certainly the owner believed absolutely this was a playoff team, and this was a head coach who won less than 35% of his games over the course of his time there, who was underwhelming as a head coach as it relates to the record, even with injuries this year. And Travis Schlenk decided probably to salvage, as a lot of GMs do, his own position in the organization. He had to make some kind of move because this season is very important to him and to the Hawks in general.
Nate McMillan, now an assistant there, seems like the choice that they would like to be the interim head coach at least. Can a head coaching change fix enough of the problems for Atlanta to make the postseason? Or is this more about holes that they need to fill on that roster at this point?
I think if you include the new definition of postseason, right? You get one of those slots that allow you to try to win 2 games against one of the last 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference. They can be a playoff team. They're a top 10 offense. They have a guy in Trae Young who can be dynamic. They've got, I think it's 8 guys who average double figures in terms of points per game. They just have to improve a little bit defensively, and certainly folks around the NBA respect Nate McMillan. There's a strong belief that he could be and would be a head coach again. The question is, and I don't know the answer, Chris, will McMillan take that job? Will he agree to be that interim? He has been very vocal in his support of Lloyd Pierce with the press and behind the scenes. They are close to each other. Lloyd Pierce is really a beloved guy just as a human being. You presume he take the job because people tend to, but I think it's more of an open question than it might be in some other situations.
Okay, we'll see what happens. It's Bill Reiter as Lloyd Pierce gets let go by the Atlanta Hawks in the middle of his 3rd season at the helm. And when you look at the Atlanta Hawks, you see a team that's sitting outside of the playoff race. Bill Reiter, we thank you so much for your time. We have much more HQ to come, but we do want to let you know that we have these games coming up tonight. I mentioned the Chicago Bulls. They're underdogs at home against the Nuggets. Our Tim Doyle loves the Nets money line. I mean, he's not going to stick his neck out there and give the points, but he loves the Nets money line after they had their 8-game winning streak snapped last time out against the Mavs. Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.